Hey Mum, said Sarah as she got up and went towards her, do you need a change? She pulled back the back of her diaper and looked in. She noticed that her butt was a little red. Mum. Again. She pulled it back up as Margaret dropped her head in embarrassment. You really are very naughty, you know that. What's gotten into you? What's gotten into me? Yesterday I was changing your diapers. I was feeding you and took care of you. Now I'm the one in diapers, getting spanked by children. Changed in public. And now me and my husband are in our own house wearing big diapers and being taken care of by our toddler daughter. She stomped her feet in frustration. I hate this place. I want my real life back. Sarah cooed as she got her into a hug. Margaret couldn't hold it in as she cried into her shoulder, standing on her knees as she hugged her daughter. Shhhh, it's okay, I'm not mad, cooed Sarah as she rubbed her bare back. Margaret sniffed as she let go and stood on her knees as Sarah wiped away her tears. Just promise me you'll be good at daycare, okay? Oh. Okay, Sarah. She wiped her nose as she smiled at her daughter. Sarah beamed. Good girl. Who's a good girl? She tickled her belly, making her laugh. Margaret started to feel better as Sarah stood her up and led her towards the living room. Dave was watching TV when Sarah sat Margaret next to him. On the TV was Teletubbies, which Margaret hated when she wasn't wearing diapers. Dave was fascinated with the show, especially with the cute yellow one. Okay, I'm going to do some reports, so don't make such a fuss, okay? She pinched their cheeks as she went to the table. Margaret snuggled up next to Dave as they watched the Teletubbies play on the bright green fields. Once the show is finished, a commercial came on. It showed a grown man and woman on the floor of their nursery. Then a young girl entered the room as she cuddled her parents, who needs a diaper change. She cooed, the father and mother babbled as they were laid down. Then the girl turned to the screen. When my mummy and daddy needs to be changed, I trust Huggies diapers. She removed their diapers as she wiped their asses. She pull a big puffy diaper out of a package. It's 100% absorbent and keeps their big tushies dry. It cut to the parents enjoying their new puffy diapers. Then it fade out, showing the logo and the location of the diapers. Margaret turned off the TV, getting frustrated with her situation. Dave was going to complain but decided to cheer her up. He grabbed a baby blanket and hid his face. Hey Maggie. She turned and looked at him. A peekaboo. He popped his face over it, then hid it again. Peekaboo. He popped it under it, then back behind it. Where's Maggie? Margaret smiled. He did this with Sarah. Dave continued to do it, so she just went with it. Once his face was covered, Margaret playfully looked around. Where's Davy? She looked around while Dave giggled. Margaret looked under the toy rabbit. Not there either. Where could he be? She then looked at the blanket. She playfully about to take it when Dave poked his head out. Peekaboo. There he is. Giggled Margaret, clapping at his achievement. You're a little fun bug, ain't you? She tickled him as Dave began to laugh. Stop it, he said as he crawled away with Margaret following. But I wanna tickle. She called out, I'm gonna tickle you. She crawled after him around the room. Sarah was writing down in her notebook when her parents were crawling past her. She sighed, then looked at the time. Guess I have to get dinner ready. She got up and she removed her notebooks. Dave and Margaret were behind the couch tickling each other when she walked up to them and checked their diapers. Well, Daddy, guess I need to change your stinky diaper, she covered as he led Dave towards the nursery. Margaret laid back on the couch as she wondered about her life. I never had that much fun before. She smiled as she wiggled her toes, but this could be her chance. She got up and quietly crept towards her daughter's room. Inside, she spotted her keys on the desk. Bingo, she quickly grabbed the keys and carefully removed the key to the basement. Once it's off, she put the keys back. Now I gotta hide this. She looked at the basement key, so Sarah doesn't take it off me. She ran back to the living room and got on her knees. She grabbed a Barbie doll and slid the key in the back of her shirt. Perfect, she grinned. Now later tonight I could find the box and get out here. She hears footsteps as she put the Barbie in the dollhouse and quickly started playing with a toy cow and chicken. "Now we're all clean, how about we get you guys some dinner," said Sarah as she led Dave past Margaret and into the kitchen. Then she walked back in and stood her up. "It's time for nums nums," she playfully patted Margaret's belly as she led her into the kitchen, to an empty high chair next to Dave in his high chair. Dave have a blue bib tied around his neck as he plays with his toy truck. Sarah tied a pink one around Margaret as she was locked in. Then she grabbed a plate filled with bite-sized chewy meat and put each on their table while she sits at the table eating her grown-up steak. Dave started to grab a piece and ate it, chewing it happily as he grabbed another. Margaret looked at her babyish food as she grabbed a piece and put it in her mouth. Then Dave threw a piece at her cheek. "Hey!" she scolded as Dave threw another one. "Stop it." But Dave laughed as he stuck his tongue out. Margaret growled as she threw a piece and hit him on the chin. Soon Sarah noticed them throwing food and kicking each other. Hey, stop. She spilt them apart. "Dad, you need to stop picking on her at dinner." "But it's fun," argued Dave. Margaret blew a raspberry as Sarah shoved a bottle of milk in her mouth. Margaret started to suckle as Sarah held another one to Dave's mouth as he started to suckle. Margaret closed her eyes as her belly filled up with the delicious juicy milk. "My good. This feels so right." She grabbed the bottle with both hands as Sarah let go. Margaret and Dave drank their milk as Sarah finished up her dinner, then she removed the bottles, their bibs, and let them down onto their knees so she could drape them over her shoulders. There, she cooed as she pat their big bare backs. Dave and Margaret both let out big burps, with Margaret spitting up some on her shoulder. "Mum." She sighed as she rubbed their backs. "This is my favorite shirt," Margaret giggled as her and Dave were sat on the ground, tummies filled with milk. Sarah then stood them up and led each of them by the hand as they walked out of the kitchen towards the bathroom. Once inside, they sat on the soft mat as Sarah filled up the tub. Margaret was sucking her thumb as Dave started to poke her boobies. Once the tub is half full, Sarah took their diapers off and put them in the bathtub. Dave started to laugh. "What's so funny?" asked Margaret. "I can't see your jinnai," he giggled. Margaret looked at his dick and started to giggle. "Well, I can see your willy," she teased. Then they both burst into laughter as they started splashing and bouncing. Sarah sighed as she tried to shampoo their hairs. Margaret played with Dave while Sarah soaped them and rinsed them. "What was in that milk? I feel so giddy." Dave started to splash her, so she decided to splash back, which unfortunately got Sarah wet. "Okay, I see how it is," said Sarah as she splashed them back. Soon they were in a splashing war as Sarah is now completely soaked. She then drained the water as the tub is now empty. She dried off in a towel, then got Margaret out first. "All nice and fresh, so try not to have any accidents," she said as she dried her. Margaret shook her head as she was wrapped in the towel. "Fine, go wait in the nursery while I get Dad, okay?" She patted her, but as Margaret walked out, Margaret sat naked on the change table waiting for Sarah to put her in a diaper. "I feel like I'm forgetting something," she frowned, then she sat up. "What am I doing? I shouldn't be here waiting to be diapered by my daughter. I should be looking for this box and fixing this." She was about to stand up when Sarah walked in. Margaret expected Dave to follow, but he didn't enter. "Where's Dave?" she asked. "In the living room, Mum," she said. "I got a surprise for you." She went in the closet and pulled out a black velvet box. Margaret recognized the box. It's the box that has her new sexy lingerie. But Sarah pulled out a black velvet onesie, with red frill and a flap on the top to expose the breasts. Margaret could imagine herself wearing this as Sarah laid her down. Soon she was in a fresh diaper and wearing the lingerie onesie. "There you go," cooed Sarah. "Daddy's going to love it." Margaret giggled as she twirled. Then Sarah went and get Dave, who wore just his diaper, as he entered the room. Margaret sat in the crib with her finger to her mouth. Sarah put Dave in the crib as she pulled up the bars and locked it. then left the room as she closed the door, leaving them with just the nightlight and lullabies. "We gonna do bang bang?" asked Dave. Margaret nodded as she jumped on top of him as they began kissing, thrusting against each other with the sounds of their diapers blocking out the lullabies. Dave grabbed the top of her onesie as he pulled it off her, leaving her in her diaper as he kissed her chest, belly and shoulders. Margaret moaned, but there's something she wanted him to do. Before he was nervous, saying it's uncomfortable. But now they are basically infants, curious to try anything new. She pushed him off as she stood up. She grabbed the tabs of her diaper and ripped them off, then discarded it out of the crib. She turned and got on her knees as she wiggled her bare ass to his face. "What are you waiting for, Davy?" She turned her head giggling like an horny idiot. "Bang bang my brains out." She turned her head forward as she hears Dave ripping off his diaper and shoving his willy in her bum. Margaret moaned as Dave thrust and thrust, shaking the crib as it creaks and creaks. Yes. 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 She never have felt so turned on. They should have done diaper play a long time ago. Dave continued to thrust as Margaret started to orgasm. "Oh yes." She gasped as she held onto the bars as the thrusting continues. Sarah laid in bed as she could hear the creaking and the moaning from her bedroom. "This is very awkward," she sighed as she hears her mummy moaning from the adult monitor. She turned it off and tried to go to sleep, hoping that they at least keep their diapers on. Margaret fluttered her eyes as the morning sun shone through the nursery, hitting the crib as the two naked adults lay cuddling each other. "Morning," said Dave. "Morning," said Margaret as they started to giggle. She looked at their naked bottoms and laughed harder when she noticed their diapers were outside of the crib. "Think Sarah will be mad we stayed naked?" she asked. Dave shrugged as he turned on top of her. "Maybe. Wanna do more until she comes in?" Margaret grinned as they began kissing and touching, then Sarah came knocking in. "Okay Mum and Dad," she said as Dave quickly rolled off of Margaret. "That's enough bang bang. I honestly think the crib can't take any more." Margaret and Dave giggled as Sarah pulled down the bars and removed the torn onesie and discarded diapers. Then she grabbed both their hands and escorted them out of the crib to the table, where they lay down next to each other with their legs up in the air as Sarah put them back in diapers. "You guys did bang bang?" she asked playfully as she slid a diaper under Dave. Dave and Margaret giggled. "Yeah we did bang bang," he said. "Bang bang good," cheered Margaret as a diaper slid under her. Sarah giggled as she powdered both their bottoms and taped the diapers securely around their waists. "Okay go play in the living room while I get dressed okay," she said as she stood her parents up. Dave and Margaret ran towards the living room to play with the toys. Dave started playing with the toy cars, while Margaret sat at the dollhouse as she grabbed the Barbie and pulled the key out of her shirt. "Well the sex were great and all, but I can't spend another day as a diaper-dependent retard." She got up as she waddled, leaving Dave to play alone while watching Dora the Explorer on TV. "Don't worry babe, soon we'll be proper adults again." She hears Sarah having a shower in the bathroom as she quickly went to the basement. Once the door is open she carefully opened the light and climbed down the stairs. She looked around for a box that said, "Dave's baby stuff," or something like that. She looked at boxes for a while until she found a box with old invention stuff. Bingo, she grinned as she looked through it and found what she was looking for. "There you are you stupid thing." She held the black box in her hands as she examined it. "How does this thing work anyway?" She remembered that Sarah pushed a button and the world changed, but she can't see a button. She shook it in frustration. "Crap. This close and I can't even turn it on." She tamped her feet, jiggling her breasts when she realized something. "Dave," she opened her mouth in a big hopeful smile, "he gotta remember how it works. He just gotta." She held the box in her hand as she climbed the stairs. "Dave. Dave," she called out as she left the basement. Dave looked up at her when Sarah snatched the box from her hand. "Where did you get this?" she wondered. "You know you're not allowed to play with baby stuff." Margaret tried to snatch it back but Sarah walked away to the kitchen, when she grabbed a chair and a step tool as she managed to put it on top of the cupboard. Margaret sat on her padded ass and started to wail. I was so close. So close, then she took it away. Sarah went to her as she hugged and comforted her. Shhhhhhhh, it's okay, she cooed as she rocked her. I know you adults are curious at this age, but that is a baby toy, not meant for adults. Margaret cried louder. Sarah cooed as she grabbed a pacifier and put it in her mouth. Margaret suckled as Sarah wiped her tears. Hey look mummy, she pointed to the TV. Barney. Margaret turned towards the TV and dropped her parky. There was Barney the purple dinosaur on the TV. She hadn't watched this show since she was a little kid. Hey kids, he said, wanna play? The teenagers around him cheered as they follow him around the land. Margaret giggled as she crawled closer to the TV and sat firmly on her butt as she watched. Sarah sighed a breath of relief as she went to have breakfast. Dave was playing fire truck. Margaret watched her show. She giggles as she remembered watching this as a child, how it made her laugh. Every Saturday morning she would sit in front of her TV and watch Barney all day if she wants. She started drooling as she was entranced by the screen. Dave crawled towards her when he started to crinkle his nose. He took a peek in Margaret's diaper and found out that she pooped herself.